Hey, what's up? This is High Turn Normie. Saga coming at you. It's fascinating to me. There have really been countless examples of women lying about domestic violence, about sexual assault, about anything that kind of puts a man in the all bad, horrible person type of category, and is going to prompt white knights to spring to the rescue. And one example of this is the Courtney Clenney thing. OnlyFans model who stabbed her boyfriend to death, and is trying to claim it's self-defense. I mean, but that's what you do when you're accused of any kind of murder and you think that there might be some ambiguity or some way for you to get off. Everybody in that kind of predicament that they create for themselves claims self-defense. So that's no surprise. But I think it will resonate with a huge amount of women because they'll say, hey, she's not going to lie about that. Women don't lie about abuse, etc. So as long as, because it happened behind closed doors, even if the forensics evidence says, hey, it appears he was sitting down when he was attacked, it appears he was laying down, it appears that, she came from behind, it appears that, not that you would need that level of evidence, but even if there was that kind of implication from the way the knife went in and all that kind of stuff, or the footsteps or DNA or however they do it, a lot of women and even men are still going to say, no, this, I don't really care what it says. I know that he's a big guy, and I know that she is saying that she was abused, and I'm not prepared to say that she's a liar in this situation, And obviously he isn't there to tell his story. But what I find fascinating about this is that ever since the Amber Heard thing, there is a lane for people to say, no, I think that the woman might have been the killer here. It might have not been self-defense. She might have been the main abuser. It was almost like the first time ever when all this, like the energy of just everybody on the planet, 99% of people it seems were like, Johnny Depp was the real victim. Amber Heard was the aggressor. She is a abuser. She has personality disorders. I would hate to be around her, etc. You can tell from her face that she's lying, which isn't really the best way to tell if someone's lying. But she has a conceited manner, which makes people predisposed not to like her. And I think people have the right to that opinion for sure. And but there have been so many more clear-cut cases, so many more egregious cases, so many cases with even more doubt that what the woman is saying is true at all. So many other cases of women faking, conducting administrative violence, basically, using the biased, unfair laws that are there to protect women and persecute men, even when women are in the wrong. Every woman at a certain level knows that if shit hits the fan and they need to or want to, they can use these laws to lie because they will get the benefit of the doubt. And men in law enforcement who are, they probably have higher sex drives than typical men. They probably have more of a sense of a feeling of being wanted by women than other men, because they're men in uniform. They have more of a feeling that they have an ability to access women. Police do, and judges and people in authority in the justice system like that. So they are going to be those type of people who are predisposed to believe women no matter what, or at least virtue signal to women more broadly that they always take women's side and that they're the big, beautiful, brave, confident man who's like crushing the creepy loser, weirdo man, and siding against that man and saying, I condemn you. Look at the contrast between us. I'm the hero and you're the villain. You're the weasel man. I'm the cool man. So that stuff is at play most definitely with the police. And That's why we see the breakdown of domestic violence arrests that we see. I think reliably the majority of the time, even if the man had all the injuries and the woman had blood on her hands, so to speak, and there is a video of her doing something to him, if she calls the cops over because he doesn't want to make a big deal about it or whatever, and she's crying and she's begging and she's saying, "Oh, policeman, look at your muscles, you're so fine," metaphorically, the police are the majority of the time going to side with the woman. I think probably the majority of times that the police have been called to a home because and the perpetrator was really the woman, out of those cases, even if those aren't the majority of cases, let's grant the other side that, just out of the sliver of cases where the woman was the aggressor, I think probably the majority of the time the man was arrested and prosecuted in place of her as sort of a sacrifice to this mentality. But that's why it's so stunning that I wouldn't have predicted how the Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing was going to play out. That case bothered me since 2016 or whatever, when it first, started breaking. I was fully believing Johnny Depp's side of the story and fully not believing Amber Heard's side of the story. I was upset that he got kicked out of the Harry Potter stuff and etc. But it was weird how even like radical feminists were saying, Amber is a witch, she's a liar, she's what's wrong with women today, etc., etc. She's lying about domestic violence and like men. This happens to men all the time. It was actually great. It was like the only time I've ever seen, people broadly come out in any kind of dispute on a man's side against a woman, period, in real life or in like this celebrity world or pop culture. The only time ever. And I just wonder what it was about Amber Heard that made her that unlikable to be able to counteract so much privilege that she had in this area and so much of the women are wonderful bias that every single person pretty much has in the United States. So like, I wonder why that was the tipping point. But it's interesting because now with the Courtney Clenney thing, almost every single comment you see on YouTube is like about that case is like, "Oh, she's an Amber Heard. Hey, I bet she supports Amber Heard," and just puns about Amber Heard and just saying, "Oh, the new Amber Heard." So it's interesting that, there has to be a sort of a case study of something, like an example, a precedent, a archetype for people to be able to acknowledge a phenomenon. It's like it took so much, it took all the inconsistencies in Amber Heard's story for that to be the paramount, breakthrough case in this archetype. But now since it's been an archetype, all of the dummies out there can just point to any case where the woman looks sus and they can just say, Amber Heard, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, however, it's got to work to shed light on the issue of women lying about abuse and women being really the abusers, etc. Whatever can shed light on that. But I just think it's funny how oftentimes like this stuff happens in the dumbest way and the most counterintuitive way. It's like, who would have thought that like it would have taken Johnny Depp and Amber Heard and like this weird celebrity trial to get people to finally buy into what men who have experienced a toxic relationship are saying is like, this is real. This is real, and like I'm a person and it's not my fault that, this girl is crazy. But still, there's like this nagging sense that it's too good to be true. I see these headlines coming out saying like, some person actually now says that they saw Johnny hitting Amber and they saw Johnny intimidating Amber and this kind of stuff. So it's almost like it can't really last, we might yet see this thing become, a tale like, oh, the men of the world like tricked everyone into jumping to conclusions and like we threw Amber Heard under the bus before really knowing, and because it is such a powerful narrative, it's sort of like the whole Karen thing and the whole like, privilege thing and the whole like way people resent the way that blonde girls specifically have, life on easy mode in a very, very specific way, even compared to like brunette women who are pretty. And so we might yet see that be reversed. It's kind of like politically, if like, if like, the right wins some kind of battle in court, that it's just a matter of time before the far left, goes out and strikes that down. They just have to run it by enough appeals by different judges, and someone's going to be like, hey, this can't be out there to like have a chilling effect on Democrats or whatever. So that definitely seems to happen in politics, and I think this is a political thing as well. So, I'm not holding my breath that like the Amber Heard archetype is not just going to be erased and swept under the rug at some point. I think it's highly possible, and I think it's highly likely, unfortunately, and it's like, it's just interesting how before, and I know I'm reiterating this, but before the Amber Heard verdict came through and before all of the TikTok memes and stuff about Amber Heard saying, it was a B and this kind of stuff, like before she made a fool of herself in people's eyes, there was really nothing, there was no phrase or terminology for female on male abuse, psychologically or otherwise. There was no term really for women lying. There's been like this eternal term, of one type of female behavior that people look at as bad, of like, oh, don't be a gold digger. Like the gold digger thing, if someone's just blatantly like, I'm with him for the money, or like, she's 20 and the guy's 95 and she's with him for the money, and like she divorces him and goes like, haha, now I've got the money. People of all stripes will condemn a woman for that, and some feminists will be like, who cares, do your thing. But still, most people see that as weird behavior, because it's purely self-interested. But like, for the purely self-interested behavior of trying to send someone to prison based off a lie, or trying to ruin someone's reputation based off a lie, or trying to take someone's kids based off a lie, this just now is like getting the name of like Amber Hearding someone. It's like before that, there was just before that, as far as society was concerned, it just didn't happen. It couldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. It's like every single case where it looked like it might have happened, it's like, no, it didn't happen. Like, it's right-wing propaganda. It's propaganda from men, etc. So, but now people have this like heuristic, this sort of simplification of any event to be like, oh, like lying woman, she's Amber Heard now. And so, again, it has an effect of bringing these things to the surface and letting people see this, but it's kind of weird that it needs, I guess, like maybe people who are trying to change the landscape of public opinion should focus on these watershed cases and should really perpetuate these stunning, weird, out-of-the-ordinary cases that involve celebrities or stuff like that, because at that point, the average Joe and Jane are going to listen and they're going to be like, okay, I guess it is technically possible. And then they're going to be like, oh, I see it everywhere. Women are lying about this all the time. Even if the pendulum swings so hard in the other way, they're going to be thinking that, they're going to be saying that, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, everyone has a little Amber Heard in them and we can't let it, go by unchallenged. It's just so weird, But, okay, there's my rant for today.